Welcome to the Wayne Bennett podcast, celebrating West Virginia's people, places, and the culture of Southern Appalachia. Now here's your host, Wayne Bennett.
Welcome to Wayne Bennett's podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Bennett, and this is episode 190. And today our guest, he's been here before. He's a retired newspaper executive. He's an ultimate fisherman, and now he's a writer. And Bob Clay, welcome, buddy.
Thank you very much. Let me just say thank you so much for putting me on again. I really appreciate it and enjoy these sessions.
Well, you know, I was just wondering. There's been a lot of writers who've started late writing. Samuel Clemens, Laura Ingalls, and some of those people, and but none of them started as late as the 70s, in their 70s, to write. What inspired you?
Well, I have written quite a few articles, newspaper articles, and newsletter editors for fishing magazines and that kind of thing. And so I have written on and off, all my life, but not to this degree.
Uh-huh.
But one of the main reasons for this was to kind of leave a legacy for the Jaycees, which is just about gone now, and to memorialize the 70s and what a group of guys we had throughout the state and nation.
Now, you chose the pen name BK Clay instead of Bob Clay. What was the thinking behind that?
My real name was Bobby, and I was when I was younger and in business and running for state office and this and that and the other. I thought Bobby was too soft a name, and so my middle name was Kemper, and I just abbreviated it, say BK, and and a lot of people don't know me by any other name.
Aha moment, though. I mean, you've written other articles and things. I know you gave me a book on a pictorial type book, with beautiful pictures of fishing and those kind of things. But what was your moment to decide I'm going to do this?
I've thought about it for years, and quite frankly, when if you read the stories, they're like sitting down with a bunch of old friends and just talking to each other and reminiscing, and that's kind of basically it is the combination of different folks and different that create a character, and the stories are pretty well accurate and true, but the characters are all fictitious. But I sit down and said I'm going to do it. I always wanted to do it, but it was a journey.
Well, as a writer, what's your best time to write? Do you write in the evenings, in the mornings?
Absolutely the morning. But what I did, if I would take notes and think about, I remember that. That was funny. Oh yeah, I remember that. That was, and I'd just take notes. And then when the events that were, I guess you might say, just notorious for our group, like Acapulco, when we went to Acapulco, and when we went to Canada, those were big events for us. Being young and everything was new and everything was fun and everything was, and a lot of times we got in stuff over our head. But I thought we just wanted to memorialize those stories, but the characters are different and what you might say enhanced.
I especially enjoyed the trip to Canada and the guys getting stranded. And I mean, kind of identify with some of those. Of course, you didn't use real names. The characters you used.
Only occasionally, like Sam Weiner, Ron Pierce. Those were, a lot of the JCs were, actual people and held those positions. So those are real names. But generally, the characters that are characters are fictitious.
Names to protect the guilty.
Yeah.
Chose the name of the book. How did you come up with that?
Right. If you look right up there, 1 block away from here, is the corner of Main and Fayette. And in the 70s, during this time period, lawyers, all kinds of professionals from around town, store managers, insurance guys, stockbrokers, at noon after we hung out there, and we hung out on the corner there, and changed, trying to solve the problems of the world, and and laughed and came up with it was just amazing. Almost every day, wasn't all the same group every day. They mixed and mingled and
somebody
whatever.
didn't show up that day.
No.
Did anybody bring it up?
No, no. I probably went 2 or 3 times a week, and it was just where we were all pretty much businessmen and professionals and that kind of thing.
So the book's name is The Corner of Main and Fayette.
Yeah.
And we are in, I'm sorry, we are in Burnham Bookstore, 209 Prince Street in Beckley, West Virginia. And we are at a book signing that Bob is having, BK Clay. And of course, this you will not hear this till after the book signing is over, but it's a special occasion. Now it's interesting. You were talking about the corner of Main and Fayette, but it seems like that particular time period that the downtown Beckley had their characters.
Oh yeah.
And I did a podcast a couple of years ago of some of the people that you would see every day that you went uptown. Many of them were not professionals, but good people. I mean, good stories, but they were interesting. They were characters to a certain. I can remember Tojo, who was a newspaper guy, and I think Harry Reid might have been his name. I'm not sure what his name was, but everybody called him Tojo, and that's what he went by. And you had Chris Clifford and Mary Francisco, who worked for the Salvation Army, go around with a tambourine collecting money for, my gosh, 60, 70 years. And it was just, it seemed like the town had an aura about it. And
It was so busy.
yeah.
It was just wall to wall, and you might not remember. You probably remember, but see, they were closed on Wednesday afternoons but open late on Mondays. And Monday night was when people from out of town and wherever would come into town and shop before the malls were built out there.
Yeah.
And it was, you'd see all these people that, that you usually would only see, or wouldn't see. And it was a great era. Just a terrific era.
It was, nowadays, I mean, you mainly have government buildings and lawyers' offices and bonding companies, and there's not a lot to it as far as shopping. They've made efforts, but it'll never return to the old days. And that's because of shopping centers.
In the book, I tried very hard to get the names of the, like Ray Hall's and Silver Brand and Freddy's Restaurant, and I tried to throw in all those kind of places that people of that era would recognize. So it's very accurate in that that way.
Well, I noticed in this book you didn't write much about your childhood or growing up. I think in one particular story when you got with your cousin and cooking a pig, you mentioned a few things in the. So you're basically, the book kind of starts as an adult who is a member of the Jaycees.
Right.
And
right. And it's not chronological. It goes backwards and forwards because I weighed the value. I tried to weigh the value of what would interest people.
Now your book has a bank robbery. It has violence. It has killing, murder, sex. It has acts of kindness. It has a lot of different venues there.
And most of them are true stories, just recreated so that, like I said, the guilty would not be recognized.
Now, I remember some of those activities, and I spent a lot of time trying to guess who the characters were. I think I know
the bank robbery that actually happened up in Montgomery, and I was in college when it happened. And
then you go to a prison visit, and who do you see? But we're not going to give too much of it away. But your changes after you wrote the book, did you edit it yourself, or?
I hired a publishing company to edit it, and the grammar is not my not my expertise, and proofread it and whatever, but they didn't really do a very good job. And I went over it. Like, writing it was pretty easy, but when you're in college or when you're in high school or whatever, you write an essay or you do this and that and the other, and it's the end of it. You never see it again or whatever. But making something as perfect as you can requires day after day, and to me and my wife, who was an English major for part of the time, it was a long, hard road to get it in the kind of shape we wanted it to be in.
Did you ever use any artificial intelligence on your book?
Only what Word did, and a lot of times it was wrong because dialogue doesn't follow grammar rules, but it didn't know the difference.
Yeah.
It didn't know that's the way Wilbur talked, and so then I have to correct what it corrected, and that was time consuming.
Yeah.
And one of the over discussing it, but with my injuries, I had to handwrite. I can't hardly type at all, so typing was a real challenge too. Hunt and peck's what I had to do in editing it.
Typers, and so I usually use the yellow pad and types it for me. And but now a couple of stories, like I said, the trip to Canada is you gotta read it. I learned a little bit about no pigs in August, and you guys cooking a pig, and I've actually kind of lived out.
Yeah.
Everybody, if you've never cooked a pig, it takes a lot of time and patience, and
well, yeah.
In our case, we drank a lot of beer when we was doing that, but it was and hoped that the pig would come out right. But one of the things, and it was kind of a teaching moment, but when you were talking about the parachuting,
that actually happened.
There was a period of time, and some of these guys in Beckley, everybody was kind of getting into parachuting, and I almost did myself. I come very close, and but then after seeing a few of these guys get banged up and stuff, I decided I better. But I had one buddy that he was pretty good, and he told me, he said, "If you pay for the plane, I'll get on it at Pent Springs, And when you're having a football game at Park, I'll land on the 50-yard line with the football.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
said, all you got to do is pay for the plane. I won't charge you anything. And I was going to do it. I was the athletic director and the football coach. So I decided, well, I better run this by the principal first, and the principal, no, we can't do that. That's too much liability, and that kind of stuff. But he would have done it. But even later, as good as he was, he got injured pretty seriously and was not able to
Oh
jump.
man. Yeah, well,
But that was just, everybody was in their late 20s and early 30s. That was just one of those stages everybody was trying to go to. But
well, we if we could have a party, we had it. We had one, and especially down on the river, at different camps for different folks, or different people own different camps down there, and we just over the period of summer might have 3 or 4 pretty good sized parties just down on the river, and that was and normally only one time did we roast a pig, and that's kind of the background for it. But we had skydivers come in and that kind of stuff.
somebody wrote one time, there's a craft at looking back as long as you don't get stuck in the
Right.
past.
That's a great comment.
And then there's also another quote, writing does not come alive until it's read,
Yes.
and that's what you want people to do is read your book, and I've had the privilege to do that. And how long did it actually take you from the first time you sit down and started working on it till it was actually came out as the finished copy?
Probably a little over 6 months, 6 or 7 months. It only took 3 or 4. I called several stories because they were too similar to the ones that I selected to put in. And again, it was a bear. It was a bear, and it's kind of a it was a tough trek for somebody who don't know anything about it.
Mm-hmm. Do you read a lot?
I read. It's really kind of interesting. My favorites are Hemingway, and currently, I think one of the best short story writers ever on earth is George Saunders. And I read them, but I like autobiographies and that kind of thing much better than novels. I'm not real crazy about novels.
Yeah. So autobiographies is mainly what you like to read?
Those kind of things. And
yeah. Now there's a guy who's got a website that I want to recommend. It's called Old Man Still Got Stories. And it's a good website, and the guy talks about, why you should share your stories, and and kind of encouraging, actually get you wanting to write some. But do you handle you got your book out there and people are reading it. Do you handle criticism very well? Everybody likes to be patted on the back, but what if somebody says, man, I read that book and I just didn't.
Well, as a matter of fact, it depends on what it is. I'm not too concerned about typical writers' formulas. The plot and the order in which things are supposed to be. These are just, like I said, stories that you and I would sit down and talk about. Oh, you remember when? You remember what we used to do, and the response. And that's pretty much how these stories were just created. They weren't thought out and planned as far as plots and all that kind of thing that a true book has.
This book not only has a very good local appeal, but talking about the Jaycees and your work in the Jaycees and going to the national convention and those kind of things. It also has a national and international appeal itself too. And from a business standpoint, if all the or most of the former JCs bought your book,
Oh, I'd be a rich man, probably.
yeah. Well, tell
Okay,
me
let
about
me
tell me about the JCs.
in the 70s were its highlight. That was the big time for JC's nationally. And in West Virginia, there was 80 chapters at one time, and over 3,000 JCs. And women were not in the JCs at that time, so there you can associate the notion that was a pretty good voting bloc, and we were very popular with politicians, although we were apolitical. I don't remember ever, other than having a guest that was a Democrat or Republican, where that ever came up in the conversation. But we were a very nice big voting bloc, and in 1972. A young man named Sam Weiner out of New Martinsville rose up the ranks and became national vice president. And he was the only national vice president from West Virginia. And when I wrote this book, or was writing the book, I asked him if he'd write a little foreword for me, and he did. And it's called Once in a Lifetime at the beginning. And it was just incredible how influential the JCs throughout the nation was. And as a story in the book, President Ford came to the National Convention in Indianapolis, and in West Virginia, the Rockefeller, when he was governor, Jennings Randolph. It was nothing to get these guys to come and speak. I mean, they'd look out there, and there was just tons of young people that were potential votesmen, and they went after them if they could. So we had a great relationship, and of course Hewlett Smith was a national vice president, and he was one of the very first JCIs. So. Now today, that's another reason I really wanted to write the book, was just to pass on how big and influential the JCs were in the nation, and like you say, in the world. Now,
Is there still JCs?
we had there was 300 some thousand JCs in the 70s when I was talking about, and now I understand there's only 400 chapters in the country. There's none in West Virginia that I know of. There might be one. And now, it's a national phenomenon. It's not. I mean, you talk about all the other civic groups; they're nowhere near what they were back in those days. And a lot of it had to do with the demise of rural areas, rural towns. So it was an enjoyable time, and different chapters had different notions about what a club looked like. I mean, there was a lot of small chapters that played poker on Wednesday night, and that was their number one thing. And then, like in North Carolina, the Greensboro Open golf tournament was a JC event.
Well, just in the Beckley area, you had the Beckley JC, Sophia JC.
Sophia JC's a great bunch of guys, yeah.
Any others farther south that you know of?
Well, Bluefield was and Princeton were extremely good chapters and great chapters. But we extended also, Mullins had a good chapter, even Oceana. And Lewisburg had two, east and west. Oak Hill, Somerville, Richwood. Richwood had one of their big projects was called Over 80s Party. And in the summer, they would entertain anyone over 80 to a big party and feed, all kinds of good food and speakers and helicopter rides, and it was quite a deal. It was really great. It was really great.
You've written this book. You're How long has this book been out?
I came out in September,
September?
last year. Yeah, yeah. And it won. It won a couple of awards. A finalist and one in first place in a Literary Global Awards, which was for short stories books, and that was pretty cool.
Well, what's next? I mean, you got another one you'd like to add to it?
I've thought a lot about it, but this has been such a I, I've had a lot of adventures in the fishing world and all that. So thought about that, but I don't know if I'm that dedicated now. To be honest about it.
Yeah.
This was I didn't know what I was in for until I got in it.
Well, the book is easy to read. It's entertaining. It's like I said, it covers a lot of different genres. It's got a local and a national appeal. Where can people get this book?
Well, you can get it on Amazon real easy, or you can go to my website, bookbybkclay.com, and that's my website for the book, and you can just hit the button, it'll take you to Amazon. And at Farms Bookstore here in Backley.
Well, listen, Bob, I appreciate you talking to me, and good luck. And hopefully you're busy the rest of the day, and we'll come back and see us again. And anybody else out there that would like to be on our program, you can contact me at awbennett50@gmail.com, and we'll get you on here. And remember, until next time, if you're not dead yet, you're not done yet. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.